Good evening, boys and girls. It is Joe here from Draft FPL. How are we doing this evening? Could someone, some kind soul in the chat, please let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay, and just make sure everything is working. Thank you all for joining me. Quite looking forward to this. Haven't done a live stream in ages. Feels like it's been a long time. Loud and clear. Thank you very much. That's good to hear. I'm always nervous on a live stream of technical difficulties because it's not ideal to have to fix them on the go. Okay, let's start. I'm taking questions from the chat all night. So if anyone has anything they want to ask, just put it straight in the chat. I'm going to be looking at them all evening. If we run out of things to talk about, I might go through some of my teams, some of my dilemmas that I've got this week, and kind of talk about, what I've ended up doing in terms of lineup, stuff like that. But, predominantly I'm going to be going from the chat. So let's start with Prannoy. I'm confused who to start, which two to start. Eze, Ben Rama, Dunk, and I'm assuming that means Guehi there. I think I probably would start Eze first of all. I think I'd start Dunk as well. Ooh. Yeah, that's quite tough. I think Eze and Dunk are the two I would start. I think, or maybe Eze and Benrahma and just go for the two mids. It's quite a tough one. I think I'd probably go Eze and Benrahma actually. Clean sheets are hard to come by. Brighton's defence hasn't exactly been fantastic so far under the new manager, that is. So, yeah, I think that's what I would go for. It has been a minute. It's been a long time since the last stream. Turn the mic up a tad. Yeah, I can do that, I believe. Let's do this. Let's go for that. What to do with James Ward-Prowse? Had him for 15 weeks and starting to lose patience. Yeah, he is frustrating one for sure. I think the fact that they've got a new manager in is a good sign. I think Ralph's time was up. That was for sure. And it's not someone I'd be desperate to get rid of, but it is definitely someone I would consider dropping if I couldn't bench him this week specifically. Anfield's a horrendous fixture, even with their struggles. So yeah, I would keep if you can, just because, with this new manager coming in, we don't really know what's going to happen. He's done a decent job at Luton, but it is a bit of a step up, and Saints' squad is thin and kind of poor. So James Ward-Prowse is a tricky one, but I think at this stage, if you've kept him this long, you might as well keep him. It's only one more week. There's barely any Saints players going to the World Cup, so the new manager's going to have basically a whole month of training to get his ideas into place. So I would keep if you can for now. But with hindsight, you probably should have dropped him like 6 weeks ago. But you can't really tell that at the time. Mitoma for Arison. Absolutely buzzing about it. Yeah, I'm excited. Mitoma's done something to me. I like him a lot. I really like him. I think he's really exciting to watch, which obviously doesn't get you points, but it is it does make the whole experience more enjoyable. And I think Brighton, especially once we're back after the break, back up and running, I think they're going to be an exciting team. I think they're going to score a lot of goals. And if he's starting, then that's a good sign. Looking for an injury investment. Okay, I picked up Varane last week for after the World Cup, but Fofana is winking at me from the free agents pile. Which would you invest in, Varane or Fofana? I think I would probably stick with Varane. It's a tough one. I think the problem with Fofana is that you've got multiple options in that back line for Chelsea, and I do think Fofana will be the preferred choice. I think he'll be in the first choice back three, but as we've seen with Potter, that doesn't always matter whether they're the first choice. That doesn't mean they're going to start every week, and I can see him being a frustrating hold. Plus, Chelsea's defence so far has been terrible under Potter, realistically. So I think Varane's the better investment there. United's defence actually has been pretty good. I'm pretty sure, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm pretty sure I saw that over the last 6 game weeks they've had the best expected goals against in the league. So it's definitely a healthy situation for United defence at the moment. So I think Varane's the one I'd go for. Do you think Grealish starts? Debating starting him over Webster or Ben Davis. Yes, I do think Grealish starts. I don't have too much to go on with that, but I think it's hard to tell with City always, obviously, but I do think he'll start. Yeah, I think on that left-hand side, they don't have too many options that provide the same things that Grealish provides. So I think he is Pep's preferred choice at the moment. I probably would start him over Webster, definitely. Ben Davis is a hard one to bench. I think Spurs are one of the best chances at a clean sheet this week. Probably City, Liverpool and Arsenal are the only better chance at a clean sheet. But Leeds do attack and they are a decent side going forward. So, yeah, I'd go for Grealish out of those 3, I think. Was offered Jesus and Saliba for Son and any defender I have, excluding Trent. Mid forward to be decided, but would this be a good deal? Jesus and Saliba for Son. So you'd be losing Son and a defender. Probably like a trash defender. For Jesus and Saliba. I mean, Jesus has been a bit of a funny one as well. There's a lot going on with him at the moment. He started off, absolutely on fire, points galore, and then it all kind of slowed down. The stats haven't slowed down. The chances haven't slowed down. It's only his finishing. And you kind of have to weigh up with Jesus to think, is this who he is? Like, is he going to be... is he going to underperform all year? He probably will to an extent. Or is it the fact that, he's on a downswing and maybe after the World Cup he'll, catch fire a little bit? Because it could easily happen. I mean, the amount of big chances he's having is absurd at the moment. So I think I would see if you said Jesus or Son like straight swap. I think I would still pick Son. But Saliba is a good upgrade if you're losing like a rotation defender. So I would say I would go for the trade if I knew. Primetime Danny with a £5. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Let's have a look. What is next? Who to play this week at forward? Alvarez, Mopé, Che Adams, Chris Wood, Broja or Daka? I think I would go not for Alvarez because I don't think he'll start. I think Haaland will be back in. Pep's being coy, he's being annoying as per usual, but I would go. I think Haaland's going to start there, so not Alvarez. Mopé I think is a good shout this week. Away at Bournemouth, they're pretty leaky. They don't have their first choice keeper, so he's probably top of the pile. Che Adams at Liverpool, I'm not interested. I don't think Chris Wood starts. Not convinced Broja starts after Ober's rest in midweek. So for me, it's between Mopé and Daka. And I think... So one thing, in a situation like this, right, they're both similar players. So this is kind of how I would do this. I would say they've got kind of similar... ability. I think maybe that's a bit harsh on Daka. I think Daka's a better player, but they're similar. So I will go to in fact I'll get this up on screen so everyone can see. Every week I actually do this for the Patreon members, but every week I look at each team's percent chance with the bookies to score 2 or more goals, and I kind of use this as a barometer because the bookies, people say, "Oh, beat the bookies" and all this, but it's very hard to beat the bookies. Like they know what's going on. So we should be using that to our advantage as a fantasy player, I think. So I look at to score 2 or more goals this week is quite a good barometer, I think, for a team that might haul. So if we're looking at Daka versus Mopé, Leicester are 33% and Everton are 40%. So Everton are more likely to score 2 goals or more this week. So I think Mopé is a better pick, and it kind of comes down to that, I think. Let's get back to this. Mitoma and Ramsey are both available. My mids are Elise, Eze, Sancho, Xhaka and Bruno G. Should I drop someone for one of these two? This, do you know, I think it might be time to drop Sancho. Maybe. I mean, it's a ballsy move, and it's maybe not something I would advise people to do. But I think if I don't actually own him in any I've got 6 teams and I don't own him in any of them, luckily. But if I did, I would be seriously considered dropping. Mainly because he's never ever shown any kind of consistency in the 18 months he's been in the league. B, he's never really even had a good spell of form where he's picked up consistent points. C, he's struggling to get in the side. D, Martial's fit. You can't see him dropping Rashford. I think they play a lot better without Ronaldo in the team. So I think Rashford's more likely to go on the left, Martial through the middle. So I think Sancho's going to be kind of left out in the cold at the moment. You got Anthony there, who's obviously going to start on the right. I don't think it looks good for Sancho. So I'd seriously consider dropping him. I wouldn't advise people to drop him because it is a bit of a risk. But I think if you're picking up someone with decent upside, like Mitoma or Ramsey, who both are, I think their values are only going to go up from here. Whereas Sancho's value is only, I can't see it going up from here. I only see it going down, really. So I would seriously consider picking up one of those two for Sancho. And who I'd pick out of the two, I think it's really close. I was going to put Ramsey in the waiver video this week, but he was a little bit too highly owned. I think he was already about 55-ish% owned across the leagues, which is a little bit higher than I like to go for in the waiver video. So I didn't put him in, but I think he's a great option, and he strikes me as a kind of player that will do really well under Unai Emery. So both good picks, and I think Ramsey is less risky because with Mitoma, no matter how much I like him, it does look like there's a chance. There's enough players in that position. There's a chance he could lose out and end up, if he has a dry spell, not staying in the team. So I think Ramsey's slightly less risky. So he's probably the more sensible play. But I like Mitoma for this week more, if that makes sense. Is Mitoma or Lallana a better choice than Benrahma? This is a question I've had quite a lot this week. And it's tough. So when I do the video, I try and order them on the waiver video, like the mids, in order of who I would pick up first. But that is affected by how well owned they are. So Mitoma is available in like 95% of leagues or something this week. So I think him and Benrahma are very, 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 very close. I put him first because he's owned in less leagues, so he's probably more useful to people. Whereas Benrahma I already obviously tipped him the week before, scored, ownership went down, but it was still quite high, so I put him in. So I think I would probably pick Benrahma. No, I think I really don't know. I don't know. I think it kind of just whatever you think. Like, it sounds bad, but whatever you think is best, really. There's some, sometimes you just can't really call it. I mean, to go back to what I showed earlier, Brighton for this week specifically, Mitoma versus Benrahma. Brighton's at 52% to score 2 or more. West Ham are at 50%. So it's almost 1-to-1 on which you'd go for, by the bookies' odds anyway. And I think they're pretty similar goal threat within the team. So yeah, whatever you think is best. I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer to that. Matoma or Gross? I think Matoma at the moment. Gross, I mean, he could be playing left back. Like, Gross is one of the weirdest fantasy players I've ever known. I'm really not sure about Pascal Gross at the moment. He obviously had that great run of form, and I own him in one league as well. And it's hard to drop someone that's done so well, but he's not playing in the same role he was. Especially since Lallana's come in, who's now basically playing number 10. Gross is playing kind of a right wing back ish role. I can't really get my head around their lineup at the moment, really. So I think Matoma's playing further forward in the same team. It's probably just a better option, I think. Eze, Matoma, or Garnacho. Garnacho's an interesting one, isn't he? I mean, he's kind of sprung up out of nowhere. I mean, United fans aren't obviously have known about him. But yeah, interesting one. Someone I would not put people off taking a punt on him. I really wouldn't, because United still have problems in attack. They still have problems going forward. And sometimes a youth player like that can really turn things on his head. So I personally probably won't punt on him, and I won't. He may come into a waiver video, in a 3 or 4 game week's time, but I wouldn't put anyone off punting on him if you can afford to bench him, because we don't know if he's going to start. Like that's kind of the crux of it, really. Grealish has started 4 games in the last 12, if that helps. Foden 1. Yeah, I mean, Foden is what a wind-up merchant. I mean, he started the first 8 maybe, and since then, 1 start. I don't think he's going to start. Well, I mean, he could start, but it looks like, I think it's more than likely that City's front 6 will be Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Haaland through the middle, Bernardo Silva on the right, Grealish on the left. Foden just seems kind of out in the cold in the moment, which is really bizarre. I wouldn't have expected that with his start to the season. Scoring a hat-trick at Old Trafford. It's very weird. I mean, Foden might be a good punt to sell. He might be a decent sell high at the moment, to be honest, because there will be people in your leagues that are not not noticing that he's not been starting constantly, and if you can get a really decent midfielder for him, I'm not talking like a top 2 rounds kind of pick, then I think that's not a bad shout, to be honest. A mate offered me Eze and Watkins for Almiron and Costa. Would you take it? Eze and Watkins, Almiron and Costa. It's hard to get rid of Almiron at the moment. Really hard. I think maybe after this game week, I potentially would. And it's kind of a weird thing with Almiron at the moment, because his data is good. The underlying stats are good. It's not like 6 goals and 6 good, but it's as good as the likes of Harvey Barnes or Martinelli, or people like that, right? So it's in that second tier of midfielders. He's not up there with Salah in terms of the data. So do I think he's going to keep up what he's doing at the moment? Definitely not. But do I think he's still a good pick? Yes. So on that basis, I think it's probably a good time to trade him, especially after this game week, because he's going to have a month with no games. And who knows what form players are going to be. Form is a weird thing. Confidence is, I suppose you should call it confidence, really, comes and goes. And after a month off, who knows what is going to... It's going to be an absolute mess. And we've never had anything like this in draft, where you can see confidence of players and who's doing well and who's not, and then a month goes by and it's a complete reset. We really don't know. I mean, it's almost like the start of the season again. So if you can get a technical upgrade, which is kind of how I describe Almiron and Eze and Watkins for Almiron and Costa, is probably a technical upgrade. It's probably a good idea. I'm not saying definitely do it, but logically, I think that makes sense. But I would say you might be able to get better than that. If you offer that pair around the league, you may get better than Eze and Watkins. Not that I think that's a terrible trade, but you might be able to get better than that. Primetime Danny, starting lineup of Sarr, Lenglet, Konate, Cancelo. Looks good. Maddison, Xhaka, Rashford, Mitoma, Højbjerg. Solanke, Daka. Subs, Thiago, Silva, Cher, and Tony. Thoughts? My thoughts are, I like the team a lot. First of all, Lenglet, Konate, Cancelo is great. Really good. I don't know if your subs are in that order, but just off the top of my head, I would definitely have Schär ahead of Thiago Silva, and I'd probably have Tony ahead of Thiago Silva as well. I don't think there's really any chance that Chelsea keep a clean sheet against Newcastle, especially at St James's Park. Tony could any week score. I would consider playing Tony ahead of Højbjerg, although Lee's defence is terrible. I think you've got it right. But I think I'd reorder the bench. I think I'd go Tony, then Cher, then Thiago Silva. Getting 3 picks from the waiver video is very nice. That's good. That's good work. Do you think United will sell a loan Sanchez to make his career revive? Maybe. I mean, it's hard. The problem is, if they do that, the value of him plummets. Even if they put him out on loan, that is them telling the world that he needs something new, and that instantly kills his resale value. So it's hard to see, especially with the wages he's on. They're going to have to cover most of them. It's hard to see that happening, and I think. I think they're too far gone. I think that if they'd paid 30 million for him, then yes. But I think the status of the move and the player, I don't think that's an option for them at the moment. Trade Mount. I don't know if now is the right time to trade Mount. I wouldn't drop him. Definitely wouldn't drop him. And I probably would just sit and wait, because Chelsea are another one, like I was saying about Saints, that I think a month of, obviously a lot of the squad are off at the World Cup, but a lot of them are staying behind. They've got injured players that aren't going. They've got a lot of players that don't play, haven't qualified. And I think a month with Potter might do them world of good. Obviously, they didn't have a pre-season with him. He's trying to implement his style, which is quite unique on the fly, and that is quite a difficult thing to do. So I'm not sure that I think they will do better after the break, Chelsea. I think now is probably a good time to see if you can steal one. Like the likes of I'm not interested in many of them, but Mount I think is one of the few that I would be interested in snatching off someone. Maybe Reece James as well. Those two seem like the best pair, in my opinion, anyway. The rest, I mean, you could argue Sterling as well, but I've owned him all year and he's been so frustrating that it's really difficult to set that aside and think, okay, he might still be a good pick. My starting lineup: Alisson, Zinchenko, Konate, Trippier, Martinelli, Zaha, Eze, Benrahma, Martial, Darwin, Jesus. Subs are Dunk, Guehi, and Luis Diaz, Meslier. Is it okay? I think that is good. Obviously, you're benching Luis Diaz because he's injured. Meslier is an obvious sub. Dunk and Guehi, I think. I mean, you do have Zaha already, right? So you could hedge that. Palace have a bad game and bench Eze for Dunk, just because then you don't have all your eggs in one basket. I don't generally like playing like that. I like, my preferred method is to try and maximise the points by picking the players that you think are going to get the most points and try not to hedge too much, because I find sometimes, Palace could go off against Forest and you've benched Eze because you were scared about them blanking. So I think I'd stick with that. Dunk as a first sub is a great first sub as well, because you do have players that could end up not playing. Martial, Zinchenko, there's a chance that they don't feature, right? So Dunk is a good first sub. Which two out of Lenglet, Tyrick Mitchell, Mount and Benrahma should I start? Good question. I would probably start definitely Lenglet and Mount, I think. I don't know, actually. I think it comes down to Mount versus Benrahma. I wouldn't start Tyrick Mitchell. I fancy Forest to score, to be honest. I don't think Palace are a bad clean. Well, they're still a good clean sheet prospect. Still probably one of the top 5 or 6 clean sheets this week. But I would probably, I think it's more sensible to start the attacker, and I think Benrahma, actually. The more I think about it, Mount and Benrahma, I would say, probably have a similar goal involvement for their teams specifically. So I'm going to go back to my trusty table, and I honestly, it might seem like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I honestly do this all the time. Like almost every decision, I don't make it based on this, but I do. If I'm stuck, this is my go-to. So Chelsea are 38% chance to score 2 or more goals at St James's Park. West Ham are 50%, which is quite a big gap. Benrahma and Mount are probably a similar total goal involvement in their teams. I'm guessing Benrahma still has penalties, so Benrahma. But it does feel weird to bench Mount, and I would very rarely bench Mount. Very rarely, but this is one week that I would consider it, to be honest. Pick 3 defenders to start: Cash, Guehi, Webster, Kufal, or Target. Well, I think Target is probably not going to play. Target is an issue at the moment, and I think I'd probably drop him, to be honest. It's weird because I was really high on him at the start of the season. He looked good. The problem is Newcastle are performing so well at the moment that I just don't see Eddie Howe dropping him. I don't see how Eddie Howe can justify dropping him. And did he start in the Cup? He did. So Newcastle played Palace in the Carabao Cup midweek. The back line was Manquillo, Lascelles, Dan Burn and Matty Target. Matty Target played the full 90 minutes as well. So just based on that, I would bin. I would find a good defender to replace him with. But other than Target, Cash, Guehi, Webster, Kufal, I think none of them have much attacking threat. So it's basically who's the most likely to get a clean sheet. Well, luckily, I've got a table for that. So let's have a look. And this might seem like I'm cheating, but really is this this straightforward. I think if there's no attacking threat involved for the defenders, who's most likely to get a clean sheet? So let me zoom in on this if I can. No, my fingers aren't working. Who was it? Cash, Guehi, Webster, Kufal. So Brighton, West Ham. Where's Palace? Oh, Palace, Brighton, and West Ham are right there. And Cash. So not Cash. So I would start Guehi, Webster, and Kufal. That would be my advice on that. Once the season is over, I'll leak your channel to my group chat as I'm in a competitive league, need every edge. Yeah, it's it's tough being a fantasy content creator and trying to encourage people to share your content, because the very the very point of it is to beat your friends, and if they're all seeing the same advice as you, then it can become you do lose any edge. Not that I think I provide that much edge, but you got to do. I don't blame you though. You got to do what you got to do to win. I have no qualms with that whatsoever. My only issue is my opponent has a Palace defender and it's such an obvious clean sheet. Is it an obvious clean sheet though? Forest generally score at home. If it was at the Selhurst Park, then maybe. But let's have a look at Forest's Forest results. Hang on, let me get this up. So this season at home, where are we? So they scored against West Ham. They failed to score against Tottenham. Scored 2 against Bournemouth. Scored 2 against Fulham. Scored 1 against Villa. Scored 1 against Liverpool. Scored 2 against Brentford. So, looking back, I wouldn't say it is an obvious clean sheet. I think it's a good chance, and they're pretty high on the table, 26%. But 1 in 4, 26%. It's not. I wouldn't give that. And that. I wouldn't give that. I wouldn't put my house on that. Right, let's go back. Moves for my team: Kepa, Mendy, Cancelo, Trent, James, Stones, Saliba, Martinelli, Mount, Benrahma, Grealish, Bailey, Jota, Wilson, and Tony. That's a seriously strong team, my friend. I like the Kepa-Mendy pairing. I like that a lot. Cancelo, Trent, James is just ridiculous. Stones and Saliba is very, to have as your 4th and 5th defender, Stones and Saliba is pretty nice. Martinelli, Mount, Benrahma, Grealish, Bailey, Jota, Wilson, and Tony. I don't think there's much to tinker with, to be honest. I think you've got a pretty decent mix of wait and sees. You've got James and Jota, who are both injured, but you don't really need your bench that much anyway. Jota, Wilson could potentially miss out this week. He's got the sniffles, I think, hasn't he? What is the latest on that? Oh, it looks like he's probably going to play, so that should be all right. The only thing I would suggest with a team like this, right? It does get to the stage sometimes where you'll find that when you look at your team, you think, there's no one I want to drop here, and there's waivers there's exciting people I want to pick up, but no one, no one to pick up. What I would do, and something I try and do, is squash your value a bit. So say you've got 5 decent mids. So like let's look at your midfield, right? Martinelli, Mount, Benrahma, Grealish, Bailey. 5 decent mids, but no like top tier option. In this kind of scenario, especially if Bailey and Benrahma turn out to be good picks, so you've got 5 decent mids, a really good thing to do in this scenario is to trade 2 mids and do like 1 up, 1 down. So trade something like Mount and Martinelli for a top tier mid and someone that you can bin. Mainly because then you get the opportunity, you keep the value because you're upgrading, say Martinelli and Mount for probably not Salah. You probably wouldn't get Salah, but maybe Son, right? Say Martinelli and Mount for Son, or even like Mount and say Benrahma does really well. Mount and Benrahma for a good mid, someone like Son, and someone you can bin, because then you keep the value, but then you also get the opportunity to find players off the waiver that can then increase your team's value even more. So that's something I always try and be aware of. Sometimes you quite often will see teams and people will say, what shall I do? And the team is just good all the way around and there's nothing you can do. But that doesn't necessarily mean, especially if your league is quite open to trades, that doesn't always mean that you should just do nothing, because sometimes trading 2 average players for a good player and a bad player, I mean this is quite simplified, will then give you the opportunity to pick up another average player off the waivers, and then you can keep doing that until your team is unbeatable. That's the plan anyway. It doesn't often work out like that, but I already have Zaha. Should I start Mitoma or Eze? Yeah, I kind of mentioned that already. I would probably, I'd probably start. I would start Mitoma over Eze. I think this week actually. Yeah, I would start if you're picking between those two specifically. I think I'd go for Mitoma. Is Lucas Dean worth picking up? Yeah, I think so. I think now is a good time if you've got a spare slot on the bench, or not necessarily. Well, if you've just got someone you can hide, because you probably don't want to start him this week. You probably don't want to start Lucas Dean this week. Is he fit? I think he is. Yeah, he is fit. You probably don't want to start him this week away to Brighton, because I think Brighton are going to score. But I think Villa's defence is going to be an asset after the World Cup. You know, Villa are another team in the kind of Chelsea Saints bucket, in my opinion, that are going to be a lot better after the break. Just glancing at their starting 11, how many are going to the World Cup? I'm assuming Emi Martinez is. Other than that, is Matty Cash going potentially? I can't see anyone else. Ollie Watkins isn't going. Bailey's not going. Ramsey's not going. Lucas Dean's not going. So Unai Emery's going to have a month on the training ground with this team. And that is invaluable, because the teams they're going to be playing against are going to have half their squad decimated. And, you know, they're not... Emery's going to have a whole month to put his plans into place, is kind of what I'm saying. So I think Villa defence especially looks like a good shout. I mean, Emery's always been, you know, defence first kind of manager. He doesn't like to overcommit too much. So I think the defence is good. And Cash and Dean are both, you know, they've both got a history of being good fantasy assets. So definitely people I think you can... Yeah, France has no left back. Well, they've got Theo Hernandez, haven't they? I think they're going to... France squad is weird. It is weird. But I think they're going to be playing a back 5, because they've taken a load of... They've got a lot of good centre-backs, haven't they? So they kind of... I think it looks like they want to make the most of that. But yeah, I was surprised Dean didn't go, to be fair. The only choice I need to make is that, is Benrahma getting a return more likely than Palace keeping a clean sheet? Let's do a deep dive on that. let's look at this in a bit more detail, right? So the chance, in fact, let me show you something else. Let me just give me 2 seconds. So you can. I don't know how many of you have heard of a website called Fantasy Football Scout, but they have a members area which has basically I don't want to call it an algorithm because that's too simplistic, a model of how the expected points of every player every week, and what they think is the expected return of basically every single player, and they base it on expected goals data and the team ratings, who they're playing against, and they time that by the expected minutes. It's quite technical, but what you can do if you are a member, which I have been for a long time now, because the data is invaluable, in my opinion, is you can just see who do they think is going to score more points this week. Now, it's not, I wouldn't say it's something to hang your hat on, because sometimes I look at it and think I don't agree with that at all, but it's a good, starting point. So if we look at, so it was Ben Rama versus Tyreek Mitchell, wasn't it, I think? So Ben Rama, where is he on this list? Ben Rama. There he is. His expected points this week are 3.45, Ben Rama's. Now, Tyreek Mitchell, on the other hand, is escaping me. There are a lot of players on this. Palace, but there he is, 3. So the model would expect Ben Rama to outscore Tyreek Mitchell. Now, it's not obviously as simple as that, because if Tyreek Mitchell keeps a clean sheet, he's probably going to outscore Ben Rama, because, I mean, chances are both of them blank, right? That is the most likely outcome here. Both of them get 2 points. I think it's more, I personally would start Ben Rama, because I think it's more likely that they're going to score and he'll be involved than Palace keeping a clean sheet. Been following the channel since the start of the season. Good work. Thank you very much. I'm glad you are enjoying the content. I am really quite looking forward to the World Cup break, to be honest. Well, I say break. I'm not going to be making any World Cup fantasy content. I will be doing the odd video, especially towards the end of the World Cup, kind of preparing for game week 17. Maybe looking at injuries and who might start and who might come in and who might be out and stuff. On that note, actually, quickly, while I remember, I'll say it now. If anyone's watching that is interested in playing World Cup fantasy, I'm running a cash league for that, and you'll feel free to enter. It's going to be £20 entry and British pounds, that is, and there'll be prizes for probably first, second, third, and fourth. If you're interested, DM me on Twitter or Discord or YouTube, if you can do that, and I will get in touch with the details if you're interested in playing that, because I'm a fantasy addict, so I'm going to play it. I'm probably not going to do any content on it though. Gross or Matoma? I think Matoma. I think he plays further forward, so it's as simple as that. What about trading a defender for a good mid? Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, your defence is outrageously good, and I think James is probably still got a lot, probably the only Chelsea player that's got a lot of value at the moment, because he's been injured for their kind of bad spell. So I think something like James and Grealish, say, for a bad defender and an upgrade like Maddison. If you could do James and Grealish for Maddison, that would be a good deal, in my opinion. Someone of that ilk. Rate my squad, absolutely, of course, Keelan. Sanchez, Shah, Diaz, Trent, Guehi, Trossard, Odegaard, Paqueta, Bentancur, Bamford, Jesus, bench, Son, Isaac, Tomiyasu. Interesting. Overall, I think it's pretty good. How many people are in your league, first of all? Second of all, I'll go... Sanchez is a perfectly good keeper, someone I would happily start week in, week out. Cher is a great pick. Diaz has been annoying lately, and I'm not convinced he's going to start this week. He did play a lot of minutes in the cup. I think it's probably going to be a Kanji and Stones at right back, Ake at centre back would be my guess. It is just a guess. Diaz has kind of been frustrating for owners. Trent is great. Guehi's a good start. Trossard is fine. Odegaard good. Paqueta. Bentancur's kind of a sneaky decent pick as well. He kind of not, I wouldn't say he's quite up there with Granit Xhaka, but he's kind of on that, getting in that same area. Bamford, Jesus, and then Son, Isaac, Tomiyasu. I'd say the only problem you've got is this. Tomiyasu is your only available bench option, and he is not that available because I think he's injured. Hang on. Mikel Arteta said that only definite absent. Smith Rowe's the only definite absentee. Takahiro Tomiyasu still a doubt with a muscle issue, so I don't think he's going to play. Is the short and long of it. So then if Diaz doesn't play, you've got 10, and that is a problem. So I would, in your scenario, move out Tomiyasu for a Brighton defender or a West Ham defender or even an Everton defender, just in case Diaz doesn't play, because I'm not convinced he will. The risk of the move is the reason I love Strauss so much. Yeah, it's unbeatable. Leicester have the 4th most clean sheets, which scares me. That is so confusing to me. Considering how bad their defence was at the start of the season, I can't get my head round how they've... 6 clean sheets in the last 8? Something like that? Doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not sure it's going to continue. I don't have any data in front of me, but it doesn't strike... Their defence doesn't strike me as that good. I mean, Fass has been a big upgrade. Fass, I think, is how you pronounce it. But Danny Ward is still not an exceptional goalkeeper. And they've been playing better, but they're still not great. So, yeah, bit of a dodgy one, in my opinion. How the waiver will work with the World Cup, like a regular game week for a month. Yeah, that's my understanding. I'm pretty sure just the next waiver deadline after this week is 24 hours before the game week deadline. I can check it actually because I've got it up here. Help. Deadlines. So game week 17 waiver deadline. Wow. So the waivers go through on Christmas Day at 11 a.m. GMT, which is quite funny. I need to really think about how I'm going to organise my videos around that. Anyway, that's not that's not a thought for the live stream, but yeah, that's going to be interesting. Do you think Kyle Walker will be bailed after the World Cup? Picked? I'm assuming you mean nailed. Oh yeah, nailed. Do you think Kyle Walker will be nailed after the World Cup? Picked him up this week along with Isaac for post-World Cup. I think Isaac, first of all, is a fantastic pickup. I'm quite surprised he was even free. So that's a really good pickup. Kyle Walker, I never really think that any City players are nailed. I think Kyle Walker will probably be first choice as long as he's fit and as long as he's sharp. I think he'll be first choice at right back. So I think he's a good pickup, definitely. I wouldn't go as far as to say nailed. 10-man league. Okay, that's a good team for a 10-man league then. That's, yeah, good team. But yeah, I think just Tomiyasu is your problem, Keelan, in my opinion. What do you think of my 10-man league team? Let's have a look. Kepa, Raya. Yeah, I like that. Perisic, Shaw, Chilwell, Ake, Emerson. Luis Diaz, Sterling, Bowen, Elise, Matoma, Wilson, Aubameyang, Mope. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good team. I bet you've been really frustrated so far. You know, with Luis Diaz injury, Sterling form, Aubameyang. I like it, but it's Chilwell as well has been frustrating. Perisic hasn't really lived up to the hype. I'm guessing. See, you look really good for this week. Perisic and Emerson double up at home to Leeds looks really good. Shaw's a decent pick this week. So's Ake, so you can play those four happily. Obviously, Luis Diaz is going to be on your bench. Sterling, Bowen, Elise, Matoma, all good picks. Wilson, Aubameyang, Mope. I'm interested to see K9 McGurn. I'm interested to hear who you're planning on benching this week, because off the top of my head, it looks like a bit of a headache. So that kind of has piqued my interest. Gav, my 11 this week: Gaeta, Diaz, Saliba, Zinchenko, Konate, Grealish, Fernandez, Martinelli, St. Max, Martial, Tony. Thoughts? Yeah, it looks good. The only thing I mentioned it a minute ago. I'm not convinced Ruben Diaz plays. So on that basis, do you have a good first sub? Because I'm not convinced Diaz plays. Saliba, Zinchenko, Konate is great. Grealish, Bruno, Martinelli, St. Max is also great. St. Max also, I don't think he's going to start again. I think Eddie Howe is going to keep vibing with what is doing well, and that is, I think it's going to be Joelinton on the wing again, which is kind of bizarre. Did St. Max play midweek? Yeah, so he played 90 minutes midweek. So that gives me kind of a headache as well, because I'm not sure if I'm going to start him in one of my teams. Yeah, that gives me a bit of a headache. I don't think St. Max is going to start probably. So you've got two potential problems there. So I would... where to check for expected goals this week? I'm not 100% sure what you mean specifically, Dev, but what I do and my method is I look at the bookies. I go on just a random bookie, they're all very similar, and see what the odds are for teams to score 2 or more goals, and I use that. I turn that into percentage, which I can show you this week's on the screen right now. So this is percentage chance team score 2 or more goals. You can also I also use the Fantasy Football Scout Rate My Team tool, which I'm not going to put on screen because I'm not 100% sure if they're, because it's a premium thing, I don't know how happy they are for people to show it on YouTube, so I'm not going to show the Rate My Team, but that is something else you can use as well. Also, anytime goal scorer on the bookies is like a legit way of thinking, who do I, especially 2 forwards, right? They don't get many assists. Let's say we were talking earlier about Daka versus Mope. Who's got the better anytime goal scorer odds is like an easy way of just picking between 2 players, and that's something I'll go to a lot. My 11 this week: Fabianski, Trippier, White, Stones, Konate, Foden, Saka, Maddison, Tony Wilson, Pope, Son, Diaz, Romero. Yeah, that's good. That's a very good team. Okay, so McGurn is planning to bench Ake. Obviously, Chilwell did. Ake. See, I don't think I'd bench Ake. I think Ake's going to start. I think Ake's going to start left centre back, and I've got the predicted lineup here for City. as of Fantasy Football Scout. They do this every week. They have it Stones right back, Akanji right centre back, Ake left centre back, João Cancelo left back, which is what I would expect as well. In which case, I mean, City top the clean sheets this week. 50% is about as high as you'll see. It's very, very rare you see players with higher than 50% chance of a clean sheet. So I think it's tough to bench Ake. But then, you know, I'm not going to tell you not to bench him, because that's not what I do. I try not to tell people what to do with their team. It's your team. I personally would be starting him, and I really don't know who I'd bench. I guess Emerson Royale. Or maybe Elise. Maybe start all the defenders. I mean, it's not particularly fun to start to start a defender over a mid, but I think I would do that personally. Definitely frustrating. Yeah, I bet it was. I bet it is, because it doesn't look like a bad team on paper at all. Looks like a decent team on paper. Okay, my 11 is Ramsdale, Saliba, Zinchenko, Laporte, Bruno, Almiron, Bailey, Barnes, Martial, Solanke, Watkins, bench Sterling, Kanate, and Reece James still for this week. I would start Kanate over Laporte, because I don't think Laporte will play. And I would definitely start Sterling. Even no matter how frustrating he's been, I would definitely start Sterling. I would probably start Sterling over Bailey, I think. Villa's fixture's not exactly easy. It's Brighton away, isn't it? So it's not an easy fixture for Bailey, although I do think he's a good option, but I don't think I could bench Sterling. Despite everything, he's still Chelsea's most threatening player in terms of the data. And I like, Newcastle is it's a tough place to go. Maybe it is a good decision to bench Sterling. I couldn't do it. I won't be benching him. I couldn't do it. Thanks for help. I swapped Tomiyasu for Estupiñán. Oh, that's a great waiver. That is a great waiver. Any other rate my teams? If you've got one, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll have a look. Also, make sure you hit the like button on the stream if you're watching. If you're sat watching, please do hit the like button. It does help immensely. Right, I'm going to quickly go through a couple of my fantasy teams and talk through some problems I've got this week. Indulge myself a little bit. So let's go on to this. So this is one of my leagues, currently second in the league. Let's have a look at the table. I've got the best score by a margin, but I am second, only 2 points back, so it's not the end of the world. I think I got a really unlucky draw one week, which is why I'm second at the moment. And this is the team. So it's Pope and Ward, Ben White, Trippier, Shaw, Konate, who I picked up this week, Almiron, Eze, Xhaka, Bowen, Tony and Daka. Now, ideally, I'd like to bench Tony this week, but I've got a bit of a problem, and that is that I've got Son, Reece James and Isaac all out. And this is one of those scenarios where no worries, McGann. Yeah, sleep on it, have a think. I definitely think it's a close one between the three of them. It's not an easy decision, because Emerson has a lot of attacking threat as well, and Elise's obviously got Forest, who's a really good attacking fixture. So yeah, this is the problem. Son, James and Isaac. Now, what can I do about this? So I've been sending out trades, and no one's biting, which is annoying. But I just have to remind myself that probably all 3 of these are going to be back in game week 17. So I just have to sit on it, which is frustrating. It means I have to play Tony at the Etihad, which I don't really want to, but that's not the end of the world. I mean, he could get a pen, and the rest of the team is okay. Ironically, now this is some bad luck. I actually did a really big trade in this league about a month ago, and the 3 players I brought in were Son, James, and Isaac. Can you believe that? I traded in 3 players. I can't even remember who it was for. I think it was for Trent. I think Trent left with 2 others, maybe. And the 3 players I brought in, all injured. So, but the rest of the team's doing well. You know, there's been a few picks here that I've got off waivers that have really sorted me out. Almiron, obviously I've had this whole time. Xhaka was a good pick off the waivers. And, you know, having Trippier from the start has really helped. So that's the problem with that team. All my teams have problems. This team is a big problem. So I'm currently 9th in the league in this 10-man league. Mainly due to a disastrous start. In terms of my total score, it's not that bad. It's kind of middling. It's kind of low to middling. But I'm not miles off it. Oh, let's have a look. 14-team league for Nero Nemesis. That is tough. Henderson and Neto. Romero, Koulibaly, Dean, Guehi, Botman. Good defence. Eze, Xhaka, Elise, Bruno G, Sancho, Haaland, Solanke, Havertz. I'm thinking dropping Sancho. Listen, in a 14-team league, would I drop Sancho? That's tough because you're not getting him back. You have to, if you drop him, you have to be prepared that you will not get him back, because I really don't think you will. But that team is so good for a 14-team league. As ZW has just agreed with me. That's a really good team. Are you winning? Out of interest, where are you in the league? I think you've obviously done. I mean, obviously you've got Haaland, which is your second. Wow, who is beating that? I mean, Haaland, decent defense, decent midfield. I mean, I'm in a 14-team league. I'm really surprised. But you've done well. I think you've done good work off the waivers, is my guess. You know, the midfield could do with an upgrade. That's what I'd look at. Well, I say you could do an upgrade. They're all good picks, but you don't have any top tier mids. And I wonder if you could maneuver. I mean, it's hard to get rid of Havertz at the moment because no one wants him. But I wonder if you could do something with Havertz and Sancho, maybe, to someone that isn't paying that much attention and wants him. But I'd consider dropping Sancho. I don't think it's a bad decision. I think if there's players on the waivers that you want to pick up and he's sat there clogging up your team, then get rid. In my opinion, I have no time for keeping players that should be doing well that aren't. Team for this week: Pickford, Anderson, Pickford in goal, Anderson, Cody, Castagna, Gomez, Odegaard, Barnes, Sterling, Garnacho, Solanke, Wilson, bench, Havertz, Almiron, Cucurella. Wow, I don't think you can bench Almiron. I do not think you can bench Almiron. I wouldn't tell you to play him, but I really, really, really don't think you can bench him at the moment. I mean, he is on fire. But then, I guess, who do you bench? I'd probably think about benching I think I'd bench Cody. Probably. What do the clean sheets think? Everton at 25%. Leicester at 17%. In fact, Joe Gomez, I'm assuming that's Joe Gomez. I wouldn't play him. I don't think he starts. I think it's going to be Trent, Konate, VVD and Robertson. I would definitely play Almiron over Gomez. I would consider playing Havertz over Castagna as well. Oh no, that leaves you with not enough defenders. Ignore that. But I definitely play Almiron. If you have no time for players that should be doing well but aren't, you should get rid of Son. Yeah, I mean, maybe. It is annoying. Son is annoying, but at least, well, I don't know. At least he's got. At least he's playing. First of all, when he's back from injury, obviously, and at least he's showing signs of life. Sancho is showing no signs that he's going to be a good pick. If Sancho becomes a good pick after the World Cup, it is nothing to do with any hints that we've got so far. So it's just random. If he becomes a good pick, then you've held him, you've got lucky, I think. 9-team league. Let me get back to the big screen. 9-team league. Pope and Kepa. Gabriel, James, Botman, Dalot, Lenglet. That is good. Very good. Son, Zaha, Barnes, Sterling, Somerville, Martial, Wilson, Edouard. Thinking of dropping Somerville because next 3 fixtures and injuries. Yeah, the next 3 fixtures stink for Leeds, don't they? They've got Spurs away, and then after that, off the top of my head, let me see. Spurs away, City at home, and then Newcastle away. That is almost as bad as it gets. So I don't blame you for dropping Somerville. He was a great. If you picked him up last week for his haul last week, then thank him for the points and kiss goodbye. I don't think that's a bad move with those 3 fixtures. And to be honest, is someone going to snap him up for Spurs away? Probably not. Well, they can't this week, but is someone going to pick him up at game week 17 for City at home? Probably not. So then you can get him back if you want to, and bench him then if you need to, or you can get him back ahead of Newcastle away in 18. Then they've got a nice run after that. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. So obviously you're going to be benching James because he's injured, Son because he's injured, and then you've got one more bench. Your defence looks good. I guess you're probably going to bench Botman. I'm assuming. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good time. I think it's a good. Oh, Dalot's banned, of course. Oh yeah, so you have to play everyone. Okay, yeah. Then in that case, I would. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to. I mean, he could still do something. Spurs aren't infallible. They do concede chances. But I think if there's a decent option on the waivers, if you've got a few, that you like the look of, I think there are better options available this week. Okay, he might do something at Spurs, but what's the chance he gets a haul? Because that's really what you're scared of, right? You're scared that you drop someone, they get like a 15-point return. That's very, very unlikely, I'd say. What am I doing? All sorts. So yeah, this is the team. Back to the team that's in 9th place. So I'm struggling in this league. It's mainly come down to a few poor decisions at the start of the league. But this is the team. It looks good on paper. I've got Leno and Henderson rotating keepers. Guehi, Cresswell, Trent, Cher and Romero the defence. Seems good. Martinelli, Grealish, Mount, Gross and Xhaka. Mope, Oba and Watkins is the team. And I don't know why I'm changing this right now, because before I forget. This team has not been performing, and mainly because my first pick was Trent. And I hate to blame it all on one player. Probably going to pick up Willian. I think that's a good pickup. Good pickup, in my mind. Yeah, I'd hate to blame it all on one player because it's more than that. But Trent has really let me down as a first pick. Also, I got Aubameyang off the waivers and he's been terrible. Grealish has not done it. The only saving grace for this team so far really is Martinelli. Also, Watkins, I think I got quite early, 4th round or something. But looking forward, do I think this team's salvageable? Yes, definitely. I've got value. I'm desperately trying to trade one of these two. I don't really want Mount and Aubameyang. No one's biting at the moment. So it is a struggle. But I'm trying to get rid of one of these two is the aim. Other than that, I don't mind the core of this team. This striker spot, this Mope at the moment, has been all sorts of players. I dropped Grealish. He has no chance, never gets turns. Yeah, Grealish is a pain. I don't want to drop him this week just because of the fixture, but in this league actually I have dropped Grealish and picked him up again. He is annoying, but I think Brentford at home is such a good fixture that you kind of just have to have him. I think if he's available. Any good strikers, even as a punt? That is a good question, and it massively depends on who is available. I think Mope is a great punt this week, mainly just because the fixture's good. DCL's out. He's done pretty well in the games he's started so far. Solanke or Martial? I think Martial. I think Martial. I'm ready to go all in on Martial again. Let me just check he's not free actually, because he was free in this league a few weeks ago. Bit of just quick tinkering while I'm on stream. Forwards. Okay, no, he's not free. That's a shame. Just goes. Oh, Ings is free though. Did he play? He didn't play against United. Ings is so annoying. He would be such a good pick if he just played all the time. I don't think Emery's going to play him though. I don't think he's going to start consistently. Emery doesn't play 2 up top really. It's just not his style. He likes to have 3 in midfield. He likes to have 2, holding and 1 behind the striker. So Ings is an interesting punt, but I just don't think I can justify picking him when I need a starter in that spot. Carlos Vinicius is a good punt, in fact, because it looks like Mitro is unavailable. What a fantasy football scout saying about Fulham? Yeah, Mitrovic has joined on the injury list ahead of Son again. Yeah, so Mitro's out. Carlos Vinicius is a good punt, I think, this week. If you're in a massive league and there's nothing on the waivers and you really need a forward, Carlos Vinicius is a good idea. I think that's a good shout from Joshua. I think that's a good idea because I don't really know what else they're going to do. I think that also kind of does hurt Willian a little bit that Mitro's out. Not massively, but it just makes their whole team a bit worse, I think. Which is a shame. That is a shame. But there we have it. Okay, so is Alvarez a hold? I actually dropped Alvarez this week in that team I just looked at. I picked up Mope instead, mainly because I think Haaland's back. I mean, Pep talks a load of nonsense, but I think he'll be back. I think Haaland will start. Alvarez played midweek, played the whole lot, so I think Alvarez is the kind of pick that there's no need to hold him really. You might as well just pick up when you need to. Alvarez to Martial / Firmino or Guehi to Robbo. I'm assuming this is regular FPL, and in that case, I would do Alvarez to probably Martial, I think, and just hold Guehi. So yeah, the final team that I'm going to show in the stream is this team. Again, second in the league. Let's have a look at the table. Total score is pretty good. It's the best actually in the league. So yeah, second, just right behind. I think I beat him last week actually to close the gap, which is good. I think maybe I didn't actually, but this is the team. You'll notice a lot of my teams have a lot of similar players, and that's mainly because I'm looking. Waivers play such a massive part of this game that I will pick up. A lot of my waiver priorities are very similar from team to team, because a lot of leagues follow very similar patterns of who's available and who's free. People get dropped when they're out of form. People get picked up. It's very similar across leagues. Way more similar than you'd think, actually. Keepers, I've got Sanchez and Meslier. Obviously, it's an easy pick this week. Akanji, Cresswell, White, Konate, and Romero in the back line. Konate was picked up this week. Now, the midfield is really tricky. Now, this is a classic. This is a classic problem. Souček, Almiron, Bruno Fernandes, all fine, great. Then I've got Mahrez and St. Max. And this is a bit of a problem. I've got Romero's injured and I've got Mboma, who I don't want to play this week. So the question is, and I was kind of leaving this to the stream because there was no one on waivers that jumped out at me. Do I keep Mahrez and St. Max and hope that after the work, and know that this week probably neither are going to start? So the short-term decision would definitely be bin one off, right? Because this week I know both of these aren't going to start. I don't know it for sure, but I'm pretty sure. So I'm looking at 1 point probably. Now, the easy decision here is to get rid of Mahrez. Very, very easy decision, and I may do it. The problem is, and the reason why I have him is because every single attacking midfielder for City is going to the World Cup. And most of them are playing for nations that are likely to do well. So the vast majority of these, Grealish, Foden, Bernardo Silva, they're all going. So in that game week 17, how likely is it on Boxing Day that Mahrez starts? I'd say it's very likely. And they have Leeds away in game week 17, which is a really good fixture. Now, I could drop him and hope no one picks him up. But the problem is, because the waiver deadline's on Christmas Day, right? Everyone is going to know for that waiver deadline that so-and-so's got a niggle, so-and-so's only just come back, Mahrez is going to start. So I'm kind of playing the long game here and hoping that the rest of my team, the fixtures for the rest of my team look pretty good. Kane at home to Leeds is great. Bruno at Fulham is good. The defence all looks good. I've got Almiron who's on form. Souček's got a good fixture. I am purposely leaving points on the table this week just to save Mahrez for game week 17. If he now doesn't start in game week 17, I'll probably look like an idiot. But I think he probably will. And I think I'm going to need those points more then than this week. So that's my thought process. So Max is kind of a different story because I think, he's obviously just coming back from injury, and I think he probably will get his place back after the World Cup and then be a good long-term pick. Mahrez will probably go after game week 17 if there's no injuries. So yeah. Okay, back to so that's that. I just thought that was an interesting dilemma in that team. Okay, back to the chat. Rank Maddison, Odegaard, Foden, Bernardo Silva, and Luis Diaz and Bruno Fernandes long term. Okay, let me get my head around this. Maddison, Odegaard, Foden. So let's rest of the season rank. I think Luis Diaz is top. I think Foden is probably second. Then Maddison. Then Bruno. Then Odegaard. Then Bernardo Silva. I think. I'd like to put Bruno. I own Bruno in 2 out of 6 leagues, and I'm quite high on him. But you can't. At the start of the season, I ranked him higher than Maddison, and I actually did that trade. And I do think, actually, now looking back, I don't think that it's. I don't think it was a bad decision to trade Bruno for Maddison. I don't think it was a bad decision at the time, because Maddison's stats were awful, but he was scoring goals. The problem is his stats just caught up. So now he's scoring goals and his stats are good. So in terms of I think all those are really close. I think Bernardo Silva is bottom. I wouldn't put him in the same category as the rest of them. Just because he does a different job for his team, I think. I think Odegaard is a fantastic player, a sensational player. Probably my favourite player on that list. Definitely, in fact. I mean, I am biased. Sensational player, and he gets points just as Lieber has just said in the chat. He gets points just because Arsenal are good and he's in and around the box, and that is enough for him to get points. So it's no slight on Odegaard. Good pick, and I think Maddison, Foden, and Luis Diaz are all really close. Really close. Canate a good pickup for this week? Absolutely, yes, I think so. I don't think there's any doubt he starts. Saints attack is either the worst in the league or definitely bottom 3. I think it is the second best clean sheet this week behind City. So, yeah, I think he's a great pick this week. One forward between Dennis, Daka, Johnson, Vinicius or Moore. For this week, or are you looking more long term? If it's for... Will Akanji start? I think he will. But, I mean, what do I know? But I think he will. One forward... Long term, I think Daka is the best pick out of those. I'm not keen... I was keen on Brennan Johnson. I had him at the start. I've let him go now. I don't think he was doing the right job in the team. He's been in and out of the side the last few weeks. I think it's time to give up on Brennan, unfortunately, because I really like him as a player. Dennis, I just don't know who's going to start for Forest, so I'm not interested. This week, Daka, Vinicius or Moore, then I think is the choice. For this week specifically, probably Moore. I think Moore is the worst of the 3. Vinicius didn't do much when he played when Mitchell was injured last time. Good. I think he's a good punt if you need a punt. I think Daka's going to start. I know Vardy scored a few goals in the cup, didn't he? Let me have a look at that. Where is it? They played on Tuesday, didn't they? Yeah, so he scored a brace against Newport. I don't know why I said it like that. He scored a brace against Newport. But the fact that he even played tells me that I think Daka's going to start at the weekend. Is Edouard fit? I think so. let me see. What's the latest on Edouard? Oh, okay. There's still a lingering doubt over Odsonne Edouard. He did at least train on Friday and will travel to Nottingham with his teammates, but Patrick Vieira said a late call would have to be made on whether or not he makes the matchday squad at the City Ground. Vieira may opt not to start him in any case after last Sunday's win over West Ham, a match that saw Wilfried Zaha operate as a spearhead for the Eagles' attack. So on that basis, I would say probably Edouard is probably not going to play. I don't know for sure, and that's, but whenever I hear the words late fitness test, I'm always, especially if it's a player that's not like their absolute talisman, I'm always wary. I'm always wary of that. Drop Scamacca for Richarlison. Now there's a question. I like Scamacca. I think he's actually good, and I think he's going to start again this weekend. But he has, as you said in the chat, he has blanked for 5 weeks in a row, which is not good, obviously. West Ham attack as well is not great. Leicester defence has been pretty good. Not great, not as good as their points would lead you to believe, I would say. Richarlison specifically, I think will probably play this week. I don't see, obviously Son's not in. Perisic didn't really work in the front three. So I think it's probably going to be Kulusevski, Kane and Richarlison. In which case I think Richarlison's a great pick. So against Leeds, who are really bad defensively, I don't think that is a bad idea to drop Scamacca for Richarlison. In fact, I think it's probably a good idea. Wilson is a no-brainer over Scamacca. Yeah, agreed. Is Palace better with Zaha as a striker? I think they are. I think they're significantly better. I don't think Edouard he doesn't do it for me really. I think there's something about it. I'm not convinced that Edouard has the quality required. His link-up play is okay. His finishing is okay. I think he's a good squad player, but Zaha offers something completely different. And the difference is against Forest, he's going to have no space in behind. Even at home, they'll look to squash him. But I do think Palace are better with Zaha as the main striker. I have Paqueta from West Ham. I don't know why. I just feel he's going to start scoring points very soon. I think Paqueta's good. The difference is, even though he's playing number 10, he's not a real... He's more of a... I don't know how to say this. He's more of a metronomic player where he will keep the ball moving as opposed to making like penetrating runs into the box, which can be a little bit frustrating as an owner. But I think still a really good pick. I think good pick in my mind. What are we saying about Garnacho? I think he starts. It depends on. I think Garnacho probably depends more on Anthony's fitness than anyone else's. I don't think Sancho's going to start, and I think Martial will start up front. I think Rashford will start on the wing, and I think it will either be Garnacho on the left and Rashford on the right, or Anthony on the right and Rashford on the left. So I think Garnacho will probably start this week against Fulham, in which case he's probably a good pick because Fulham's defence is poor, really poor. So yeah, probably a good idea to. I don't think it's a bad idea to pick him. I think it's a good idea to pick Martial if he's free. I really think Martial starts this weekend, and I think they look so much better with him in the team. Especially Bruno. Bruno looks like a different player when Ronaldo don't play. So, yeah, I think think that's good. World Cup players might be jogging around at 50% to avoid injury. You hate to see it, but I agree. Could definitely be a thing. I've held Martial since Game Week 1. Oh wow, yeah. I think I gave up at about Game Week 7-ish. I was so excited for Martial. Not excited. From a fantasy perspective, I was excited. I'm not a big fan of Man United, but I was excited for him this year, and it just never really worked, did it? But yeah, oh well. We'll see. Right, I'm going to call it a day there. Thank you everyone for joining me. While you're here, if you've not done it yet, please do like the stream. It helps the channel very much. Thank you all for joining me. I always do worry when I start a live stream that I might just be sat on my own talking to no one. So it is very I'm very thankful for everyone that joined in. Thank you for all your questions and comments and rate my teams and stuff in the chat. Other than that, I'm going to get out of here, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much. And good luck for the weekend. You're right, Keith. Good luck for you too. Thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.